You think you're in charge, that what you see and experience every day is, well, the full picture? What if I told you your brain is running a kind of hidden operating system behind the scenes, and its rules? They're really, really strange. Let's pull back the curtain on a few of them. Okay, let me ask you something, straight up. Imagine you're watching a video, totally focused on what's happening. Could you miss a person in a full-on gorilla suit walk right through the middle of the screen, beat its chest, and walk off? You'd say, no way, right? I mean, of course you'd see it. Well, the answer might actually shock you. So in this now classic experiment, people were told to count how many times a basketball was passed. And get this, about half of them, completely missed the gorilla. I mean, wasn't it a quick flash? It was right there in the middle of everything. Their eyes were pointed at the screen, but their brains, so focused on counting, just edited the gorilla right out of their reality. And this isn't just some quirky lab result. This mental blind spot has some shocking, real-world consequences. Yeah, you heard that right. A police officer in Boston, in the middle of a high-stakes foot chase, was so locked in on his target that he ran right past another crime happening in plain sight. And later, he had zero conscious memory of it. He was actually convicted of perjury because nobody could believe it was possible. But psychology tells us it absolutely is. This has nothing to do with bad eyesight. It's all about how your brain decides to spend its attention. And this brings us to the first big, and I mean big, rule of your brain's hidden operating system. The idea that we can actually multitask is, well, pretty much a total myth. Our brains are constantly deceiving us about what they can truly handle at once. The official term for this whole phenomenon is inattentional blindness. You can think of it as your brain's bouncer. It's constantly getting bombarded with information, so it has to choose what gets in and what gets ignored. And what it decides to ignore, well, sometimes that's a gorilla. To really get why this happens, let's look at how the brain actually handles tasks. It's kind of like your brain has two modes. First, you've got controlled processes. This is the heavy lifting, learning a new language, having a really deep conversation. It demands your full focus. Then you've got automatic processes. This is stuff you do on autopilot, like walking or tying your shoes. It just runs in the background. The myth of multitasking is that we can run two of those controlled, heavy lifting processes at the exact same time. We can't. And here is where it gets really serious. When you're driving and talking on the phone, even with a hands-free set, your brain is not doing both things at once. It's actually switching back and forth really, really fast, toggling between the road and the conversation. And in those little moments it's focused on the call, you can miss up to half of what's happening around you on the road. A stop sign, a car braking, a pedestrian. Your eyes might see it, but your brain just doesn't register it. All right, let's switch gears to another area where we think we're in the driver's seat, but our biology has other plans. Sleep. We've all done it. Survived a brutal week telling ourselves, it's okay, I'll just catch up on sleep this weekend. But what if that's just another myth? You see, all of us are running on a built-in 24-hour clock. It's called a circadian rhythm. It's run by a tiny little part of the brain that pays attention to light. As it gets dark, it tells your body to release the hormone melatonin, which is basically the time to power down signal. And this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's a powerful biological program that governs our whole day. And this right here, this explains the universal struggle with teenagers. If you've ever wondered why they seem to be nocturnal, it's not just them being difficult, it's biology. During puberty, their entire internal clock shifts forward. That melatonin release gets delayed, sometimes until 1 in the morning. Their brains simply aren't telling them it's bedtime, which makes those early school start times a direct fight against their own bodies. And here it is, the core of the myth. This quote absolutely nails it. Trying to catch up on sleep on the weekend is like eating junk food all week and hoping one big salad on Sunday will fix everything. It just doesn't work like that. The damage from sleep loss doesn't just get erased because you hit the snooze button on Saturday. The price for this sleep debt is real, and it adds up. We're not just talking about feeling a little tired. We're talking about real physical effects. A slower metabolism, which can make you gain weight. Your brain just doesn't work as well. Your memory gets worse, your stress hormones go up, and you're way more irritable. Sleeping in might make you feel a little better for a moment, but it's not reversing any of that underlying damage. So our attention is limited, and our sleep cycle is basically hardwired. But here's where things get a little darker. What happens when outside forces, like tech companies, figure out these rules and start using them against us? Let's talk about the myth that we have control over our lives online. Every single time you get a like, a comment, any kind of notification, your brain gets a tiny little hit of a chemical called dopamine. It's the feel-good chemical, the one tied to pleasure and reward. This creates a really powerful loop. You post something, you get a little chemical reward, and your brain says, hey, that was nice, let's do it again. But some platforms have figured out how to make this even more powerful. So check this out. Instead of giving you that little dopamine hit instantly, some platforms have learned to hold back the likes and then dump them on you all at once, in unpredictable batches. Why? It's a psychological trick called a variable reward schedule. It is the exact same principle that makes slot machines so addictive, because you never know when the reward is coming, you just keep checking and checking and checking. So here's the crucial thing to remember. If you struggle to log off, it is not a personal failure. It is not a lack of willpower. You're up against a system that is intentionally built by design to hijack your brain's reward system. Keeping you engaged is literally their business model. Okay, so our brains have blind spots. They run on clocks we can't control, and their reward systems can be exploited. I know, it might sound a little bleak, but here's the empowering part. Once you understand the rules of your own operating system, you can start using them to your advantage. It's not about being controlled. It's about learning how to drive your own mind. So first, let's just bust some myths about mind control, starting with hypnosis. Pop culture makes it seem like some kind of magic trick where you lose all control. The science says that's just not true. You can't be hypnotized against your will, you don't lose control, and it can't be used to pull up perfect movie-like memories. It's really just a state of highly focused attention. So, if all the mystical mind control stuff is off the table, what can we actually train our brains to do? What happens when we take that incredible power of focused attention and turn it inward on purpose? This is just remarkable. In one study, a group of people who meditated for only 10 minutes were able to keep their hands in ice-cold water for a lot longer than a group that didn't. Just think about that for a second. 10 minutes of a simple mental exercise measurably changed their physical experience of pain. And we can actually see how it works. Brain scans show that meditation isn't just distracting you from pain, it actually dials down the activity in the specific parts of your brain that process pain signals. So you're not just ignoring the pain, you're training your brain to react to it differently. You are fundamentally changing your perception of it. So from the shock of missing a gorilla right in front of our eyes to the discovery that we can literally train our minds to manage pain, it's pretty clear that our consciousness is far more complex and honestly way more powerful than we usually give it credit for. And that brings us to the final and really the most important question. Now that you know some of the rules, that your attention is a finite spotlight, that your sleep has non-negotiable rules, and that your focus can be trained just like a muscle, what will you do differently?